Now, if y'all want to live, if you want to survive, you gotta fight for it. I'm talking about fight right here, right now. Take the snare ball.
The Tyrod Taylor Cover Band League. It's more than a cover band. And so without further ado, no whammies, let's go ahead and do the quickest recap of all time. No, that's already a segment that's taken. The guy who goes, whoop, whoop. The fastest 3 minutes or whatever it's called. No, we're gonna do the quickest recap possible. I'm a long-winded person, so that probably means it's gonna be like a 10-minute recap. But realistically, everything was pretty much decided in the standings going into this week. All of the playoff spots were pretty much locked in, barring an act of God where someone's team literally broke a fantasy record by scoring 300-something points. Because I had the final spot, and I'm pretty sure not only did I have to lose last week, but Travis would have had to pass me in points, and he was like 100-something points off. So realistically, it was just for what the final seeding of the playoffs is. And for me personally, if I hadn't beaten Michael here, he would have 2-0'd me on the season. And so since I beat him, it really did not matter to me who I was playing in the playoffs, because all three of my fellow contestants who I locked up with, I have parity with. Alex and Killer Kowalski's, I beat him in the first game, he beat me in the second game. Richard's team, I beat him in the first game, he beat me in the second game. Michael, he beat me in the first game, I beat him in the second game. And so the way it ended up falling, I'm getting out of hand here. Let's do the recap, then we'll talk playoffs, baby. Then we'll talk playoffs. Obviously, we had the Zan State Fur Assassins, and as I said, the Zan State Fur Assassins assassinated the champ. Let's not forget this man is the champion of the league, which I will talk about a little bit more when we look at the standings, but his team did not come to support him, whereas my team averaged it out enough to where it was fine. Two of my main players did not show up, really. Breece Hall, who I traded for, expecting big things from him against Miami, did not come to play, unfortunately. Primarily because Tyrod Taylor getting injured early in the first, that's why he has negative 1.5, got hurt very early, it affected that. Regardless of how my team performed, they were very consistent across the board. The Packers guys, obviously having that intense game in Chicago, the offensive players are going to put up great points. Jonathan Taylor has just such a rough end of schedule in comparison to everything else. You see all these games where he's blowing up. Atlanta, not the greatest defense. Tennessee, not the greatest defense. The Chargers, they have a good defense sometimes. Arizona, not a great defense. Raiders, not a great defense. Rams, pretty good defense, only scored 15. Tennessee, not a great defense. Denver, that is the oddball out. That's why I keep playing Jonathan Taylor, because there was a couple of matchups here, one against Houston where I was like, I should play another running back. One against Jacksonville where I was like, I should play another running back. Now he's going against my defense in Seattle, whose primary turnover and the primary reason for their points is fumble recoveries, but mainly interceptions. So I'm hoping it kind of averages out, but because of that big performance against Denver, I am reluctant to take Jonathan Taylor out, even though he keeps having performances like this one right here. Devontae Adams finally slowing down, although he has 20 receiving touchdowns on the year now. He is 3 away from tying Randy Moss, 4 away from breaking the single-season reception touchdown record. Are they going to go for it? I certainly hope so, for the sake of my playoff run. And then Harold Fannin Jr., he was just supposed to be a placeholder. I was like, he's going against Tennessee. Why not? And he was one of Shadeur Sanders' favorite targets in Shadeur Sanders' monumental week. So he came to play for me. Very consistent across the board. Even though he didn't score a touchdown, A.J. Brown still put me up 17. I'm hoping this is the new trend, because the easier part of his schedule is coming up. Las Vegas, Washington, Buffalo, Washington. I'm going to play him every single week. There's no reason to take this man out. Like I said, the change of scenery from Lou Boy to Zan State Fur Assassins, he saw a playoff spot, and now he's Then, of course, Seahawks and Jason Myers putting up their things. It's not so much of how successful my team was. I feel like Pardon Me's team very much underproduced. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is the story of the week, only putting up 10.7 points against arguably the league best Houston Texans. The Seahawks would have something to say about that as being the league best, but they literally shut down the freaking Patrick Mahomes ran offense in a big way. So that's why I call them currently the best defense in the league. Even though fantasy-wise, Seahawks definitely have that claim right now. Primarily thanks to Minnesota. You keep on giving stuff to us. Derrick Henry had a game. Pittsburgh really came to play against Baltimore. Derrick Henry was shut down by Pittsburgh's superior run defense, but their passing game cooked. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Saquon Barkley did something that Davante Adams didn't do, and he showed up to bat against his former team. I guess he took it a little bit personally because I didn't even let him play a single game before I traded him to pardon me. Whereas Davante Adams was like, we had so many good times together, Michael. I can't score on him, but it's okay because it was evened out by Justin Jefferson getting shut down by Washington's defense. I don't think it was that he got shut down. I think it was just the script of the game really played against Justin Jefferson, and their quarterback sucks. And then T. Higgins, his quarterback doesn't suck, got him 27.2 points. There was just a lack of consistency across the board. When your best player is arguably your kicker, you're going to have a rough time. So, great matchup. We matched records. Hopefully we play each other at some point in the playoffs, maybe. I don't know. I'm hoping I make it to the finals, so if you make it to the finals, Michael, hopefully I'll see you there. It's awkward to talk because I don't want to predict anything. I don't want to tempt the fantasy gods because they'll be like, Jonathan Taylor's going to get 5 points. Josh Jacobs is going to get 5 points. Davante Adams, he's not even going to play. And A.J. Brown, he's going to like fold his arms and get angry that his quarterback didn't pass to him, so he's going to get a goose egg. I really hope that doesn't happen. I want our matches to at least be amazing in the playoffs. But moving on, LaMarvelous Chase falls to the Cleveland Chubs, and his team is arguably the most consistent it's been all year. It only put up 127 points, sure, but look at those beautiful double-digit numbers. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, it shows you just how impactful certain players can be. Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua being the main charge. Puka Nacua is a monster. Matthew Stafford's a monster. They put up their numbers. Christian Watson, thank you for that. Jordan Love passed to him. Putting up his 25.9. And then Cameron Dicker, Cleveland Chubbs' most consistent player of his league this year. I'm not even kidding. Putting up 20 points for him. That's all you really needed. There was a lack of consistency in everybody else, but it padded it. You didn't even really need some of that padding because it wasn't like close. Like 4 carry the 24 points. Yeah, no, it was a pretty healthy victory. And I think that's the problem with LaMarvelous Chase's team right now is he has guys who explode, but they never explode together, whereas you have this perfectly crafted material, and which is why it was such a scare a couple weeks ago whenever I was like, holy crap, me or Travis could literally snag this final spot. Because his team is so deadly. James Cook could blow up at any point. Quinshon Judkins, that could blow up at any point. This duo could blow up at any point. Even though he hasn't proven it this year, Ashton Genty could really blow up at any point. I don't know. Against Denver, there was a possibility because they're heavy on the pass defense, but the Vegas Raiders suck. I might have played Chase Brown against Buffalo. Obviously, I'm saying that now. 18.5 points, why didn't you play him? And obviously Travis Etienne did better, but I personally would have. Buffalo's defense sucks, so I probably would have played them. And Dalton Kincaid against Cincinnati? I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge. Your Chubb on your bench got 0.3. But LaMarvelous Chase, that sucks, dude. The 1 week you didn't play Lamar Jackson, he was like, wait a second. I am a good quarterback. And just remembered how to pass the ball, let alone to Zay Flowers. So you did end up playing. I don't know why you didn't double down on that. Like, obviously, you've played Lamar, and it's like, you look at his stats. So I can't even blame you because literally for 3 weeks in a row, he's putting up these terrible numbers. For a QB, like, if this was a running back, you'd be like, oh, he's going to break through at some point. But this is a quarterback we're talking about. The man who touches the ball the most. And he's only getting you 12 points and as best against some of these matchups. The Jets, Cincinnati. And he finally blows up against Pittsburgh. So, I can't blame you because you've been loyal to your Baltimore Ravens all season. But that sucks that they were like, we hate that James Chase, dude. And decided to betray you like that. Holy crap. You should just drop Lamar Jackson and let me pick him up. Do it.
Even more frustrating than that is just keeping track of my fantasy team because there's a reason I changed the name to the Disappointments. I switched it back for Alex because I was asked to, but my God, I must have the worst luck in all of fantasy football to have Bijan Robinson Jahmyr Gibbs, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, and Drake London and have one of the worst teams in the league. I have no words, but figured I'd still chime in a little bit with at least some explanation for my team. There's a bunch of obvious starts. Kyle Pitts got put in at tight end last second because Drake London was ruled out. Figured that one needed explanation. Terry McLaurin at the flex because he was a part of the trade with punishment, so I figured it'd be fun to put him in. And then Washington got shut out 31-0 by Minnesota. One of the worst teams ever. So, again, my luck coming through. Tampa Bay Buccaneers put up 31 on the Saints last time they played. This time, Tyler Shu, whatever his name is, don't even know him because he's irrelevant, lit them up. So they did not do that this time, and I thought for sure if Daniel Jones was able to just absolutely surgically dismantle the Texans D, that Patrick Mahomes would be able to, but I was so wrong. Patrick Mahomes looked like an idiot. Kansas City looked like idiots against them. And yeah, I think those were the only like super questionable switch outs I did, but neither would have made a difference. Got absolutely destroyed again. Congrats, Punishment.
Kansas City Kunai with Chain losing to Punishment Incorporated for no other reason than the two guys he acquired in our trade let him down. Mainly Jalen Hurts of all people. Bijan Robinson's been exploding, so you can't even blame him. But other than this 40-point game, it really feels like I traded Jalen Hurts at the perfect time. Because he's kind of dog doo-doo right now. I got the better end of the deal by getting AJ Brown, so I benefit from that. But 5 turnovers is inexcusable. And Brandon, you talk about your luck this year, and anytime anybody in fantasy football talks about their luck, I'm like, whatever. And I kind of roll my eyes a little bit. The one time you play Jalen Hurts, he does that. That is terrible luck. So I feel bad for you on that one for sure. And obviously, Terry McLaurin, I was feeling bad about. Minnesota is actually a pretty decent defense. We forget that they are the ones that dropped 42 points against whoever they were playing, and they were playing for Alex Koala's team. So most of those came off of pick sixes and interceptions and all sorts of good stuff like that. They have a formidable pass defense. And so that might not have been the defense that I put Marcus Mariota in for, or Jaden Daniels in for. Might have played Mariota, especially since he was coming off a very hearty performance. Give Jaden Daniels another week of rest, go through the reps and everything. That way he's healthy for this Giants matchup. Hint, hint. You were just let down by your team. Most of the time I'm like, your team dropped 170, the other team just dropped 190. Your team didn't let you down. This week, your team let you down. It's rough, especially since you're playing Richard, the guy who arguably has the most explosive team. Unfortunately, for the most part, they don't always like explode. Like, yeah, they put up their consistent 15, 20 points per person. But like when somebody goes off like Jackson Smith and Jigba scoring a 30 or a 40, nobody else usually does it as well. You have the Dak Prescott, he's a quarterback, so blowing up at 31 isn't like an extreme blow up, but it's a pretty decent one. Jackson Smith and Jigba getting his 28 points. But it's just that consistency across the board. The only one who didn't show up was Rashee Rice, and he's been doing so good, and Houston's such a great defense that you kind of can give him a pass on that one. But that Blake Corum right there, giving you some questions, I can see. Giving you some questions of what the running back situation and random is going to be. And no, Kyron Williams probably is still going to continue to get his touches. It hasn't dropped below 12 this season. And Corum's just been doing really great on his touches. So I would expect his touches to go up, kind of match Kyron Williams. It really depends on how the flow of the game goes. But that's interesting. I'm eager to see if they bump his projections up, because currently they still only have him at like 6 or something like that. I feel like it should go up to a 10 at least. Finally, we have the Lou Boy taking down the #1 seed Killer Kowalski. Granted, he didn't have his team captain Christian McCaffrey. Guaranteed 20. Guaranteed 20. Guaranteed 20. Guaranteed to. I'm sorry, I'll stop with that. I'm the most petty dude of this entire league, I swear. But no, as stupid as this sounds, and it doesn't make any sense because it's fantasy and these guys are all on different teams. They're on your team, and that messed up your chemistry. So we'll just blame it on that for now. A couple of your guys showed up, but usually your very reliable wide receiver core is the people to kind of look at and be like, you let me down. And then Travis Kelce, who's actually been very solid. Obviously, you see that position ranked number 3. Been very solid all year because of that Patrick Mahomes struggle against the Houston defense. He got a solid 1.8, that 6.0, that 18. Add 10 points to all 3 of them, you win this match. Because that 10 points to all of them is a more realistic look of how they've been playing this season. That's why I'm saying Christian McCaffrey not playing hurt your morale, man. It hurt your guys' confidence. Especially with Josh Allen putting that 50 bomb up. The rest were like, it is inspirational. That's no Christian McCaffrey. Meanwhile, on the other side, Joe Burrow benefits from that Cincinnati-Buffalo game as well. Javonte Williams continuing to be one of the most not underrated, I wouldn't say. He's properly rated at the 7th ranked position. But he's been putting up solid performances all year. And I just want to keep shouting him out as he does. RJ Harvey is probably the biggest, I would never play him on my starting team. Granted, I have running backs, but I just look at this first half and I was like, he's not even good. And then he's been putting 20 points up back to back. So good for him. Emeka Egbuka, one of his solid wide receivers, his elite wide receiver, putting up a solid 3.5. Tyler Warren putting up what I think is his worst game of the year with 3.7, but it doesn't matter because the consistency is just going across the board. 21 points for the Dolphins defense as they injure my boy Tyrod Taylor to a 34-10 win. And then Jake Bates kicking some walls through the field goal uprights. Just the consistency across the board is what won it here, and the lack of chemistry on Killer Kowalski's side. But luckily, he gets Christian McCaffrey back, and in the playoffs, we don't have to worry about pesky buys anymore. So let's get to the part that really matters, the playoffs. It's all been decided. The order has been decided. Let's double down on it. LaMarvelous Chase is at the bottom, 4-10, the only person with double digits in the loss category. He's had himself a rough season with underproducing. Brandon with a 5-9 record, Lou Boy right above him with a 6-8, and Cleveland Chubbs with that 7-7, which last year was good enough for someone to make the playoffs, not so much this year. That's how much tighter it was in the middle with everybody kind of gallying for that last second 4th position. But it's amazing because I was stuck in this 4th position last week, but I flipped to number 3 by defeating the number 3 guy. And because, as you can see right here, my points heavily differ over pardon me's, I was always going to take that 3rd spot. Speaking of point differentials, one of the craziest stats of this week is how this ended up happening. Positions based on record and then points scored after that. And Killer Kowalski literally scored 0.4 more points than Punishment Incorporated to earn him the number 1 seed, which leads our playoff brackets to look as follow. We'll start with the consolation ladder. LaMarvelous Chase versus the Kansas City Kunai with Chain. The Lou Boy versus the Cleveland Chubbs. And the winner of these...
And Alex, you've been a great commissioner. Thanks for putting this league together. You're very generous to offer the consolation prize for winner of the toilet bowl, but I'll be honest, I have no interest in the pity prize or winning champion of the losers for 2nd year in a row. I'm here to win the league, not just participate and, be a team to beat for the actual good teams. So I'm frustrated, not in particular at anyone. Like I said, everyone here seems super cool. Just in general, at losing essentially because luck said no. Luck said yes to other teams. I won't mention them, but there is a team that made the playoffs with significantly more points against than points for, which tells me they made it in on pure luck while I had absolutely no luck. So it's just kind of frustrating, but I'm probably just coping. Everyone who made it deserves it.
Now, I do believe we have decided to rescind our agreement to give the winner of the toilet bowl $10, primarily because it is the loser's bracket at the end of the day. A couple of people did also bring up the fact that of the 4 people in the winner's bracket, 3 people are already receiving a cash prize, and a 4th person's just going to have to eat it and not receive any money whatsoever. Obviously, the first place person's going to get their $50. Second place person is going to get $20. The third place person is going to get $10 back, so essentially they're being refunded their money back so that they didn't have to spend and they could play for free. That 4th person is just going to have to eat it. So it seems weird that all 4 people in the winners bracket aren't being rewarded, but somebody in the losers bracket is. They're essentially being rewarded for sucking. Like, that's mean to say, but it's true. And when somebody brought up that point to me, I was like, yeah. So I took a vote. It seems like everybody's pretty much in line with, yeah, go ahead and take back the $10. You don't need it. So we're going to stick with the original plan of those top 3 positions getting money. And I'm kind of wanting to take a vote even further of next season. Just the runner-up gets a refund back, and first place gets all the money. Because I feel like right now it feels like too many people are getting money in our 8-person league. Maybe once we pump our numbers up a little bit, we can kind of get away with doing something like that. But until we for sure do that, I feel like half the league shouldn't get money in victory, if that makes sense. I don't know. That's just a little powwow. We can discuss it. I am filling out a questionnaire and a voting thing because I want to do end-of-year rewards for individual players. Just a fun little video and everything, like the MVP of the league. I'm not sure of the perfect time to do that. You guys should let me know when you can, like if we should do that before the playoffs commence fully, or if we should wait until the very end of the year once everything's said and done and officially name the MVP and stuff like that, because that seems to make more sense, because heroes can be made in the playoffs, and that's whenever we can see somebody emerge. Because Corum, somebody who could like be breakout player of the year if he ends up scoring a ridiculous amount of points and winning Richard the Fantasy League. So I don't know, you guys should tell me that, but enough of this discussion, enough of this business call. This is a recap. This is a preview. Let's get into it by starting with all of these matchups on here. And we're going to start with LaMarvelous Chase versus Kansas City Kunai with Chain. There are 2 weeks to preview, so buckle up. I'm going to try and go through these as quickly as possible because obviously there's only so much you can say. There's going to be some things that probably get changed as the weeks go on. I know if you look at mine right here, I've completely changed my lineup in back-to-back weeks. So that's what I'm saying. There's only so much we can really predict and see off of all of this. But immediately in the battle of the QBs is what we can kind of immediately look at. Lamar Jackson is probably who the LaMarvelous Chase is going to play on a regular basis, especially since when Baker Mayfield finally got played, he only scored 16 points. I don't even know if he has a good rest of the schedule to kind of look at, maybe against Miami, but Miami's apparently been stepping up their game. Poor Tyrod Taylor. But Drake May, on the other hand, I don't know if Brandon's going to trust Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't after 5 turnovers. I personally, I also have depth at quarterback where I literally have 3 quarterbacks I can shuffle in and out. This is a good-looking schedule, so I would just keep Drake May. Going against Buffalo, going against Baltimore, going against the Jets, going against Miami, all who have been consistently weak defenses all year. So it doesn't really matter who you play in either week. I think Drake May is just going to hold this spot. Same with Lamar Jackson. So the QBs are probably going to remain tight. Jalen Warren, Jahmyr Gibbs, at this point, they're both set and forgets for their individual teams, mainly because Jalen Warren is one of LaMarvelous Chase's better players, primarily because Trayvon Henderson, even though he's been solid for LaMarvelous Chase, is still young and still a rookie, which is why you're getting these 11-point games, taking a break from getting 33-point games, but he does have that weak schedule going along with Drake May, so that could be a foil right there, depending on what game plan they go for. Drake May is obviously who they're running through, but Trayvon Henderson stands across from Bijan Robinson. This is arguably the scariest running back duo, and I hooked him up with it. My goodness. Like I said, I didn't think about that before the trade went through, but the trade seems to be benefiting me pretty well, so I'm not too torn up about it. Jameson Williams, been actually pretty solid. The sleeper pickup for the LaMarvelous Chase, putting up 20-point games. Obviously, there's that goose egg that we're like, but pretty consistent across the board. J-Mo. He's being the person we need him to be. But Nico Collins has also been solid in his own right. You see that position rank 7. Been very consistent all year. What's that schedule looking like? Arizona, Las Vegas, Chargers, Indianapolis. So Not the scariest schedule ever. The scariest defense on here, I would say, is the Chargers. People in this league might disagree with me on that, but that is okay. Zay Flowers versus Drake London, especially if Lamar Jackson is in fact back, is a pretty nice matchup, though Baltimore doesn't have the easiest looking schedule, especially since they're playing a defense for the second time that shut them down pretty heavily in the first one. Not Lamar, but what am I talking about? I'm talking about Derrick Henry. My bad. Trey McBride, obviously the better of these two tight ends, but I imagine he's got a little shindig going on with Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts going on here. Plus, I think there's a little bit of foil action going on here to see if he can benefit from Lamar Jackson. So that's a smart move, in my opinion. Browns defense been pretty solid. Texas defense has been pretty solid. Texas, at this point, it doesn't matter who they play. They played against Patrick Mahomes. They played against the Eagles. They played against everybody and done a pretty solid job of shutting them down. You can't exactly say that against the Browns, but the only matchup that's really scary for them other than... No, because you can't say that. I won't disrespect Chicago. I won't disrespect any of these teams because you got Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. So we shall see. I'm not gonna predict anything on that. But it should be a pretty solid matchup. On paper, Brandon has the better players, realistically. But the Marvelous Chase did upset Punishment Incorporated, who's currently was this close to winning the #1 seed in the league. So never count out the Marvelous Chase. I'm leaning towards Brandon to take this week 1 matchup. Lou Boy versus the Cleveland Chubs. Joe Burrow versus Matthew Stafford. Javonte Williams versus James Cook. 2 very consistent. James Cook just tends to explode more than Javonte Williams. Matthew Stafford throwing against Detroit, but also throwing against Seattle. So he is a set and forget, but against Seattle is kind of rough. Especially for the Puka Nacua connection, but you never know. You never know. Matthew Stafford doesn't really throw interceptions, and that's where Seattle Seahawks have their bread and butter. So we shall see, shall we? Shall? Whereas RJ Harvey, not somebody who I fully believe in, proven me wrong with back-to-back 22-point games or 20-point games, but they are against terrible defenses. Green Bay, very good against the run. I don't expect him to do too much. 5-6 points, maybe even 3. Like, I'm being mean. Emeka Egbuka going against Atlanta's defense, who does give up good fantasy points, so that could be rough. But on the foil, see, this is, you switch it around. You have the weak defense first, and then Carolina is actually pretty good against the pass game. So mixed matchups there. Quinshad Judkins, who is he going against? Chicago and Buffalo, so he's definitely got the better matchup in that regard. James Cook going against New England and Cleveland, so that kind of evens it out a little bit. Great matchups. Javonte Williams going against Minnesota, who's got a decent pass. Chargers have, I don't know, Cortland Sutton going against Green Bay. Travis challenging him outright. Christian Watson going against Denver, baby. You love to see it. Tyler Warren going against Seattle. Ooh, you might have back-to-back rough weeks, my home dog, my homie. But Phillip Rivers is coming back for this matchup, maybe. I don't know if that's been officially. I know they were signing him, but we shall see. Going against Britton Strange, I would almost imagine he's probably either going to give the nod to Dalton Kincaid or probably Hunter Henry, maybe, because he's going against Buffalo, and Buffalo's defense sucks. No, but Britton Strange is going against the Jets. What am I talking about? See, this is why I should just do a 1 week. I'm getting all over the place. Ashton Genty going against Philadelphia, Houston. That's rough back-to-back things. I might almost bring in Chase Brown personally, because he's going against Baltimore and Miami. Hashtag stop benching Chase Brown. He's doing great. He finally broke out of that early season jump where he was doing all of this. Now he's doing all that. Free him. Which moves us to Pardon Me versus Killer Kowalski, which on paper, obviously the projections are high up for right reasons. Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Bucky Irving, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've been through this 100 times. George Pickens, one of the best wide receivers. I'm pretty sure he's in the top 5. Yeah, top 3. But Pardon Me also has won some decent matchups. Derrick Henry in Cincinnati, Saquon Barkley in Las Vegas, Justin Jefferson against Dallas, McMillan against New Orleans Saints, DK Metcalf against Miami. There's a lot of good potential matchups going on. And Pardon Me has like this trump card where he has the ability to cast black magic on his opponents to where they always underproduce. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it is something we should take into consideration. The fact that you have scored... Here, let's look at this. The fact that you've scored the third least amount of points in the league, had the third most points scored against you in the league, and somehow you have an 8-6 record. That is some lucky bullcrap right there. I don't know what voodoo curses you are casting, but if my stats looked like that, I would expect to be like round here. So, Killer Kowalski, you're not out of the woods yet, because you have a dangerous opponent who likes to cast witchcraft on people, and he's got Patrick Mahomes going against Tennessee in week 2, which is going to be kind of rough for him. And that's the cool thing about having multiple weeks. Like, Saquon's the only one who really has a good end of schedule. Derrick Henry has a trade-off where he plays against Cincinnati, but he's going against New England, who's probably going to stifle them a little bit. Probably. You don't want to say for sure. He's going against the Chargers defense, which could be difficult, but he's going against Tennessee, so that evens it out. Justin Jefferson's going against Dallas, and he's going against the Giants, so hey, we take that. McMillan going against the Saints, but also going against Tampa Bay, which I guess isn't the worst matchup ever. On that other side of the spectrum, Josh Allen going against a game New England, going against a game New England, but also going against a game Cleveland. They're typically better against the run, so he might be able to pass pretty heavily against them, and that might affect his scramble, so you never know. Christian McCaffrey going against Tennessee and a middle-of-the-pack Colts, then Chicago, and then it ends the season on Seattle. So there is a nice mix of matchups going across the board. I don't want to predict it. Like I said, I am leaning towards Alex to win this one. But Pardon Me is, one, the defending champ, and we have to put respect on the defending champ's name. 2, his entire run to the playoffs kind of played out very similarly. Dude made it into the playoffs 7-7. Nobody really expected him to win based on what I can remember. And he did. He beat everybody. So, in a 2-week period, nothing should be counted out. And then finally, the Zan State Fur Assassins looking to assassinate one of the top competitors of our game. It's going to be hard to predict, mainly because it doesn't seem like Richard has made his matchup choices yet. I would imagine he's doing some soul searching on Kyron Williams versus Blake Corum. Maybe even Rico Dowdle going against the Saints. Rashee Rice versus Ladd McConkey against a Kansas City Chiefs defense who has been letting up some pretty substantial points. But Rashee Rice has also been a freaking stud since he's come back. So, yeah, he's probably making those decisions. It seems like he's got good things going on anyway. Let's look at the matchups. Kansas City, Dallas. Like I said, if he's sucking in one area, he's got that next matchup coming up. I would say that's 2 good matchups right there. Chargers and Tennessee. So they got Detroit this week and then Seattle the next week. That's where we start running into a wall for his running back situation. Dak Prescott's going against Minnesota, who's pretty decent against the pass, and the Chargers as well. So not necessarily the best 1-2. I'm not playing Jaden Daniels in back-to-back weeks. I am hoping to play him in this upcoming week. I hope he plays against the Giants. I really hope he does. I feel like he's going to put up 30 points plus if he plays against the Giants. Josh Jacobs going against Denver. I feel comfortable starting him. He's in the top 10. Denver, very good against the pass. That often opens up running opportunities. Probably isn't going to be the highest scoring game ever, but that's kind of what I'm banking on. Jonathan Taylor, like I said, I'm not confident in him going against Seattle. I don't even know if I'm confident against his next week's matchup either. San Francisco, it's a little bit better, but none of these are like walk in the park matchups. We are hitting the end of the year schedule, and the end of this year schedule is rough for Jonathan Taylor owners. Devontae Adams going against Detroit's weak defense, only the turnaround for Seattle. Dude, holy crap. People need to stop going against Seattle's defense at the end of the year on my team. But A.J. Brown, like I said, has that end of the year schedule that I absolutely love to see. He's a set and forget. George Kittle, not so much a set and forget. He's got a couple of defenses that I'm looking at. And like I said, we can't go without having somebody play against freaking Seattle. But he's playing Tennessee this week, which will be fine. And I also have Harold Fannin Jr., who has a fantastic, not fantastic, but whenever he's playing Seattle, I'll have him going against Cincinnati, so we'll take that. But I don't want to go into my strategies too much. All you should know is I got a healthy mix of schedules that are allowing me to play around with my offense a little bit. And so I'm feeling good about this matchup, but just because I feel good doesn't mean Punishment Incorporated doesn't have weapons to take me out. So I expect it to be a high-scoring affair, and I honestly just hope it's a great week. I hope it's a great playoffs, and let's go out there and get it, guys. But that's going to wrap it up for this preview. Who do you guys think is taking it all this year? I want to hear the bold claim right now. Claim it in the comment section. Nice choice. But this is what it's all for, guys. This is what we played all year for. Even if you're in the toilet bowl, like I said, even if you're in the toilet bowl, think of it about legacy of the league. If we are going to be like Richard, because I remember talking about it on one of the other recaps, and he's got a 20-year plus league, don't you want to be the person that takes home the most trophies? Because even if it's a toilet bowl trophy, it's still a trophy. You won something. You didn't let the year that beats you down beat you. And that is worth something in my opinion. If I was at the bottom, I'd be fighting for that #1 position, even though last year I did set my quarterback in favor of Tyrod Taylor, who wasn't playing. I did kind of gimmick it up a little bit. But now that we're kind of molding this into something, I don't know, legacy's at stake here. And so even though there's not $10 on the line anymore, it's worth fighting for. And for the top 4 people, I believe the top best people are in the league. The defending champ, the commissioner, and the 2 highest point scoring people in the league, literally separated by 0.4 points. What's better than this?
And everyone who didn't will just have to come back better next year. That's really all I got. I hope everybody's players show up for the playoffs and meet their expectations and projections, and we just have some extremely high scoring games. I don't want anybody to get taken out because of bad luck or disappointments. I know how that feels, and it is awful. Makes you not want to play. So let's everybody, well, not let's, because that symbolizes that I'm in the playoffs, but everybody who's in the playoffs, give them heck. Trying to keep it PG. Give them heck, guys. And so sorry to see Tyrod go down. Shadeur looked great. Tyrod, cover band league. It's more than a cover band.